As you guys know, last week's biggest story, at least in the Western world, was dominating. That was the story of the media last week, was the assassination or shooting of this guy called Charlie Kirk. And long story short, as things unravel, the official storyline that this guy was shot by this college-going student. It was a professional stuff. And that kid managed to escape safely. He was only discovered, or he was only the police only got him when his dad brought him to the police. He somehow convinced him to um, surrender to the police. But that story quickly became a bit suspicious after things started coming out. For example, there was the first guy that was caught. Turns out he was like the things that he was doing were very strange, and Candace is gonna talk about this. We're gonna listen to what she has to say. So the guy that was the first, the old guy that was arrested as the first suspect was very suspicious in the sense that when the shooting happened, he just stood up and started screaming, I did it, come catch me. Some people say he even said, come shoot me, right? Shoot me. Which is a strange thing to say. Like, was he suicidal? Was he just a deranged guy who was suicidal, or what was going on? So people just glossed over it and they were like, this is just a mad guy, right? Maybe he thought he's gonna get fame from this, maybe. I don't know what he thought. But as things became clear, turns out this guy's this guy's phone had some inappropriate stuff, and by inappropriate stuff I mean like some, not even like a normal stuff, but some like child CP. So multiple conspiracies started popping out. Some people started to say, was this guy blackmailed? Maybe he was blackmailed and he was told to do what he did, just stand up immediately after the shooting and get all the attention to him. So the reason then becomes, why would you do that? Was this coordinated? And if that's the case, then how many people were coordinating this? Was the shooter alone? That's clearly not the case right now. From what it seems, if this guy and that guy were connected, doesn't seem to be the case. Maybe there was a third person who was overseeing all of this. He secured that third person secured a safe escape route for this guy, the shooter, the kid called Tyler Robinson, and he also is the one who instructed this guy to do what he was doing, like just stand up and start screaming and get all the attention to him and get himself arrested. So it's multiple theories out there, but I don't know what to believe. But we're gonna see what Candace has to say. Obviously, a few days after the shooting, she came out. She was missing, MIA, missing in action for like a few days after the shooting, and we later learned that after the first videos that she uploaded, that she was mourning her quote unquote best friend. She referred to him as her best friend, and she said that it was very visible by the from her face that she was like someone who was very exhausted, someone who was crying a lot. You could see it from her eyes in this first video. And she sounded very vengeful too. She was like, whatever happened, I still can't process it, but I can promise this. The guys behind this, I'll never let this go. She was vowing that she will never let the people who did this to her quote unquote best friend, that they will never escape if they indeed were involved in his murder. So yeah, sorry for the shitty prologue, but I feel like I had to give you guys that prologue so that we could understand at least what she was, because we're not gonna play the whole video, of course. This first video, I think I just gave you guys the energy that she was and kind of what she was talking about. She was like talking about, I'm not gonna let this go. I'm gonna continue and investigate this independently and do my things here and there. And if I discover anything, I'm gonna put it out there. That's what she was saying out here. And she was suspicious of many people, by the way. And she was like, she's not gonna rule anything out. Israelis, whoever else she mentioned, but she was not ruling anything out at that moment. She was open to everything, and she started her investigation. So this is kind of the first thing that she came up with after that long period of um, self, whatever, independent investigation into the case. So yeah, I think we can have a watch here and see what we talk
Well,
about ourselves.
I don't know if I'm the only one. Never in my entire life have I seen a situation when a shooting happens and then somebody completely unrelated to the shooting that just happened jumps up and down and says that they did it and gets arrested for saying that they did it, implying that.
Yeah, so and this guy is the one I was talking about. So immediately after the shooting, he just jumped up and he was like, I did it, come get me, blah blah blah. It was just very suspicious, right? Um, at first everyone was like, okay, this guy, maybe he's a crazy person, or maybe he just wanted fame. He thought he could get famous out of this. But as you go forward, you realize many other things about this guy, and she's gonna talk about it. Let's have a listen. So this is what I was talking about. So the way they found this was basically they arrested him the first time, and during the interrogation, they asked him to give them his phone, and he refused that. He was really like shaky about that, and he was like, no, no, he was hesitant not to do it, and he did it, and I think he didn't end up giving it, so it became a suspicious thing. I think later on they rearrested him, and they found like this stuff in his phone, right? So it's definitely some weird shit. Kawaii Tofu says it sounds like a mental illness, and only afterward did he realize he might have something on his phone. Wait, oh, okay. Who are you talking about? Are you talking about this Zima Judge, whatever Zima guy? He didn't know he had that stuff in his phone? Okay, that's weird. Okay, maybe I understood you wrong. You can explain. That's what I thought too. Maybe this guy is, maybe he's mentally unstable. Maybe, I don't know, but it doesn't look like a, but maybe he's not mentally unstable. Maybe he's just some weird guy who has some like weird connections. We'll never know. He forgot that he had them on his phone. Okay, that's a weird thing to say. How can you forget that you have that in your phone? Clearly, it didn't seem like he forgot, right? Because when the police asked him uh, to give them his phone, he refused because he knew what was inside the phone, right? So anyway, we'll see. We'll see. I say he's gonna walk free. He's not gonna be like charged with anything. That's just my thing. I just think that's gonna be the case. What do you think? Something tells me that even with how suspicious this guy looks, he's gonna walk free for some reason. How old is he? Yeah, I think she said he was 71. Maybe he's just a person who wants to end up in prison, but why? As a pity, they crush him. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's just weird. There are all sorts of weird people in this world. The other day, I actually learned that there are people who are called bug chasers, and it might sound like okay, an innocent, cute name or something, but it's actually very evil. These are people. It's a whole people, by the way. This is what they identify themselves as. So these people, what they do, these quote unquote bug chasers, they go around and look for people who are infected with STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, and their whole dream is to get or catch HIV or like even the nastiest like sexual disease, right? And it was just terrifying learning about such people exist in this world. So definitely, maybe as you say, he's just some person who wants to go to prison. He doesn't value his freedom. It's just weird though. Anyway, let's carry on.
That it
Okay,
reported an individual
I think
that was
right
dressed in dark
here,
clothing who had crossed the railing from the public walkway.
yeah, I think until here she talks about the whole like how everything seems suspicious. The official story has a lot of loopholes and so on and so forth, but I think that's not as big as the allegations or what she was claiming that the guy was under huge pressure days or weeks before like he got taken out by some college guy. So she was saying basically she was the guy who was under huge pressure, specifically from Israeli and Jewish donors, Zionist ones, of course. So, and they weren't happy with the trajectory that he was going in. He started talking about the Epstein stuff, he was pressuring Trump, with it. He, from what I learned from another journalist called Max Blumenthal, is very reliable, by the way, except when it comes to Iran, of course, he's very biased. But Max Blumenthal claimed that um, this guy was under huge pressure because he was starting to change his stances in the last few days or months, and they were trying to take over these Israeli donors. They were trying to take over his business in the name of investment. This by business, okay, I don't think business is the right word, but company, this I think is the right word, called Tiny Point USA, and they were trying to take it over and dictate to him what he should say because of course he was a very powerful figure in that sense because he had the ears of many conservative youth. So they didn't quite like these donors and Israeli people. They didn't quite like him pushing for the Epstein files to be revealed, and even was pressuring Trump not to enter into war with Iran, as Israel wanted. Of course, Israel would love for the United States to join uh, in like because what happened in the 12-day war, quote unquote war, wasn't actually a war. It's just like more okay. A skirmish would not be it too. Mm, let's just say it was a low intensity war, okay? But this guy wanted like US troops inside Iran, or maybe an escalation of like airstrikes and bombardments, maybe even targeting like the highest figures, the president and the supreme leader, I don't know, what was his name, the Ayatollah. So Charlie Kirk was against that from what I had. Personally, I doubt it, but from the things I had from him, like on his Twitter and everything, I doubt that he would do that. But they're saying that during his last days, the guy was becoming more and more America first and less about um, Israel is our greatest ally and all that bullshit, right? But then again, this is just me thinking, right? This is just me thinking loudly. But why would they kill him? If the claim is that Israel was the one that killed him, I don't see there any benefit from it. Like, why would they kill him? He has more use for them alive than he is dead. So if they wanted him to not go in certain areas, this is what they could have done. They could have targeted the people who have already went into the other side, to the anti-Israeli, anti-Zionist side. And I'm speaking here about like the the big podcasters who started to switch, Candace Owens, Tim Dillon, Tucker Carlson, those guys, right? They could have targeted those guys to send a message to this Charlie Kirk that if you ever try to switch to the other side, this is a message to you. This is what we're going to do to you if you ever try to switch sides, right? So with this, if they did that, they could have gotten two things, like they could have achieved two things. One, they could have stricken, they could have struck fear into the hearts of the people who already talk about Israel in a bad way, right? Maybe some people would have gotten afraid and started decreasing the intensity that they were speaking out against Israel. And at the same time, it would have solidified the people who are maybe becoming shaky, like from what they're claiming, this Charlie Kirk guy was about to have a change of mind during his last days. I personally don't see it that way, but they say they are his best friends, right? So it could be the case. Anyway, so number two, of course, they could have sent a message to those people who are like having like thinking about like switching sides. They could have sent a message to them that don't even think about betraying us. Like once we got you, we got you. And that's how Israel runs things, by the way. Even if they claim to be like your best friend and whatever, like you're friends with them and you've been advocating for them for like the last 30 years, they will still make sure they have something on you, you know, um, sex tape, a corruption recording. I don't know. They'll just make sure they get something on you so that you would never switch sides and turn against them. That's just how they work. The Mossad and Israel intelligence. That's how they work, right? So personally, until now, I don't buy the idea that they took him out. Obviously, the Mossad has a lot of agents in the USA, so it's more than easy. Like it's so easy for them to have done it. But I just don't see the logic behind it, right? So yeah, long story short, we're gonna skip all of these things like her talking about and digging into um the official story and calling out the loopholes and all that. We're gonna get straight to the topic that we're talking about right now, that how the donors, Charlie Kirk's donors, were putting pressure on him during the last days, and maybe even earlier than that. So yeah, let's get a listen. That's why we say billionaires should not exist. You know, the United States and Western countries have created this new class of nobility that literally can hold the whole state um, hostage. They dictate what they want. They own politicians. Some of them even cause wars, right? So I don't know. Maybe people should learn from China. I've never seen Chinese billionaires controlling the Communist Party of China, right? Maybe the Chinese were onto something. Those actually those trips to Israel are actually interesting. You know why? Because everyone goes there and just seems to have this change of heart. And that's weird because when you go to Israel, you'll probably become more pro-Palestinian because you understand just how bad it is. The things we see from on the internet is actually not as bad as how it is on the ground, right? So, mm, do the people who go there get some money, or are they blackmailed? Like, what's up? What's going on there, right? Anyway, it's always been suspicious to me. I've seen Elon Musk going there and just acting weird after when he comes back, and it's just weird, that's all I'm gonna say. I just don't see it. Going to Israel does not make you like realize, oh, people were just unjustly mean to Israel, blah blah blah. If anything, as I said, it just makes you more pro-Palestinian.